Hey, what's up guys, and welcome back to The Success. In today's video, we're going to be going through 10 of the richest apps of this decade. Now without any further ado, let's get straight into this countdown. Number 10. Clash of Clans. Current valuation $10.2 billion. Clash of Clans is still killing it. They've dominated in the App Store for years, and we're shocked to find out that back in 2017, they generated over $2 million in revenue in that year alone. Taking everything to account, they've made over $800 million in profit. That's amazing considering the company has only released 4 games in its 7 years of existence in 2016. Supercell, the company behind Clash of Clans and Boom Beach, got acquired by the Hong Kong-based company Tencent at a $10.2 billion valuation. Mobile gaming is on the rise, and the only reason we haven't included Fortnite or PUBG is because they weren't mobile first. But with the rise of smartphones, we're getting the feeling that the gaming arena is about to change. Number 9. Snapchat. Current valuation $16 billion and dropping. Snapchat has one of the most interesting evolutions. They position themselves as the new kid on the block, the new social media app for younger generations, and they started growing like crazy, up to a point where Facebook offered to acquire Snapchat for $4 billion. It was then decision time for whether or not they would take the money or ride the wave and compete with the big boys. After turning down the offer, Snapchat did maintain their growth trajectory, but not for long. They tried to push hardware products in the form of spectacles, which weren't a big hit. The company was losing a lot of money, but they saw themselves as a new Facebook, so they started cranking up the ad sales before the company went public. There were talks in the tech space that Google actually offered to acquire Snapchat for a whopping $30 billion, which they turned down as well. Now 2 years later, Facebook closed the little competitive advantage Snapchat had and integrated it with all of its apps. Snapchat is no longer receiving acquisition offers, and the investors are worried. Number 8. Instagram. Current valuation $100 billion. Facebook acquiring Instagram was probably one of the best strategic moves they made, and one of the most profitable ones as well. We remember it like it was yesterday. People were waiting for the world to end, some were finding out who the identity of a gossip girl was, and Facebook was smart enough to see that today, although Facebook still has more registered users, the balance is shifting with people spending more time on Instagram than they do on Facebook. And to be honest, it's for a good reason. The Facebook newsfeed is pretty much junk and newborn babies these days. Number 7. Waze. Acquired by Google for $1.3 billion. We love Waze as it's a service we use and it saves us time as well as speeding ticket fines, which we would have gotten otherwise. The Israeli company sparked a bidding war between Facebook, Google, and Apple, finally accepting Google's offer of $1.3 billion. There's also a bit of controversy around their exit because the founders didn't want to sell the company this early, seeing it's a great potential, but early on when raising money they sold a bit too much of the company to shareholders, who had the final say on whether or not to accept Google's offer. It only took them 5 years since the company's formation to get that large exit. Number 6. Angry Birds. Current valuation $1 billion. Now we love the story of Angry Birds because they were so close to just calling it quits and closing down the shop. The company behind the game Rovio was really short of cash. After many attempts of breaking through the space, they decided to pull all their resources and invest in one more project. After many rejected ideas, one of the designers came up with the concept of launching fat birds with a different facial expression at pigs. The game was addictive and people downloaded it like crazy. Soon after, the company tried to milk the brand as much as possible with toys, a movie, and additional licenses. The brand value soared to over $2 billion. Then they went public. As of 2018, the company had already lost half of its share price, and it's due to poor revenue reports. Number 5. WhatsApp. Acquired by Facebook for $19 billion. The most popular messaging app worldwide with 1.5 billion active users monthly. This all happened quickly while the world was still trying to figure out why Facebook would pay $1 billion for Instagram. This deal was going on in the background. Jaws dropped when the press release came out saying they were paying $19 billion for a messaging app that's barely doing $20 million in revenue per year. So why did Facebook pay this much? The simplest answer is traction and data. Facebook is incredibly good at big data, slurping up as much information about the users as they can and then using it to show you relevant ads. At least that's how they've been making money so far. Number 4. Uber. Current valuation $62 billion. Uber has a special place in our hearts, mainly for providing us with a way better alternative than the traditional taxi drivers. We love their story not only because they have and still are disrupting an entire industry, but they chose not to sell early on and instead focused on growth and took the company public. Just to give you guys a glimpse into the kind of numbers Uber is currently getting, in the first 3 months of 2018, Uber posted a $2.6 billion net profit. To be fair, the crazy amount is due to some strategic partnerships partnerships in Russia and from selling their Asian subsidiary to grab their main competitor in that region. It's one of those companies where if you only looked at the balance sheet, they don't make any sense since their company has been hammerhagging money for the past 5 years. Yet they're still on track to become one of the most prolific tech companies of our time. Just sliding this in, they have a partnership with Ford to produce self-driving Uber cars that are already on the road in Pittsburgh, USA. Special mention here is also to the Left app, who's basically doing the same thing, currently valued at around $15 billion. Number 3. Candy Crush. Candy Crush by King was acquired by Activision for $5.9 billion. Remember when everybody was playing Candy Crush? Are you ready to have your mind blown? The company King was generating $3.5 million every single day from Candy Crush alone. Seeing all this potential, Activision Blizzard decided they needed themselves to one of these and picked it up for $5.9 billion. Number 2. Flipboard. Flipboard's 2014 valuation placed them around $800 million. Flipboard is the perfect example of the right kind of timing. They created an app with the main focus to dominate the iPad market. It launched perfectly and quickly became one of the top 10 must-have apps for your iPad. Their goal was to save the publishing industry by aggregating everything you might be interested in a single, easy-to-use place. And it worked phenomenally well. The company is still going, with their latest iteration shifting focus from tablets to mobile devices, which makes sense since smartphones have been getting bigger and bigger in the last couple of years, to the point where they're not that far off from being a small tablet. We are curious to see if the company will survive the next 5 years, because in our own experience, people already rely on Reddit, YouTube, or curated communities for their friends or their news. So it's going to be an interesting case study. Number 1. Viber. Viber was acquired in 2014 for $900 million and has increased its market share since. In 2014, this was the second largest acquisition of a messaging app. It's very active and competitive space in the mobile messaging arena, with many of the billion-dollar apps mentioned on this list, trying to get as much of the market share as possible. Why is the Viber app worth over $1 billion? Apart from having over 1 billion registered users, the company has surpassed WhatsApp on a daily active user basis in the East, especially Russia, making it a very attractive acquisition for Rakuten. They purchased it back in 2014 and it's kept on growing ever since. Well, there you have it, guys. That was 10 of the richest apps of this decade. If you did enjoy this video, then make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you're new. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.